Hi, this is Graphically Alex coming at you with all things fat related. If that's something that interests you, please subscribe. I'd love to have you. So, today, I don't know why I'm laughing. Sorry, I just start laughing. I think because I was literally talking and I wasn't even filming yet. So, I'm kind of like, but I was literally defending my need to wear this jacket and hat combo because I feel okay when I'm wearing it. Like, I feel warm now. So I'm just saying. But the other thing is this video, sorry, this is not a good pausing face for her. This video, okay, I guess that's the way it's going to start. I looked for it before. I found it. It's old. It's from 2023. It's about January and like this time of year is so evil and it's that type of vibe. So I wanted to go ahead and cover it because we're still in January. But basically, like, I lost this to the ether. I did. I lost it. I couldn't find it. I looked forever. I could not find it. I did not remember who she was. And sometimes I like to react to fat girly rants or fat girl rants or fat rants, whatever. I literally searched fat rant, and this is what I found. And I lost it. I lost her. And I don't know if TikTok's takedown, then rebirth, it brought her back. American rebirth, I will say. It brought her back. It brought her back to me. So I'm going to take advantage of this. We are going to respond. I have not watched this whole thing. All I've seen so far is she does go kind of deep with it. Like, and I don't mean deep as in like she's necessarily making sense, but I just mean deep. Like she talks about like unaliving and things like that, which is like really a lot, I guess, with how evil January is, I guess. Let's see. Let's see. Let's go. Gotta use TikTok until it's gone. Now that TikTok is in danger, I'm like using it more. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know. There's like a mystery behind it now, and I'm just like, oh gosh. Oh gosh. It might go away forever. Like, I don't know. I don't know, you guys. Okay. Let's get started.
On a different rant today because it's needed. First of all, I apologize for the undetermined length of this video, but this needs to be said. Content warning: fatphobia, eating disorders, ableism, suicide. I don't know what it is, but it's like we turn over a new year and all the overly obsessed health nuts who internalize other people's fatness and torture themselves come out of the woodwork with their elitist superiority complexes to harass fat people on the internet. I just have to...
That was a beautiful sentence, wasn't it? That was a work of art. Truly. I think I need to hear that again. That was a little too good. It was a long sentence too, but it was a little too good.
I don't know what it is, but it's like we turn over a new year and all the overly obsessed health nuts who internalize other people's fatness and torture themselves come out of the woodwork with their elitist superiority complexes to harass fat people on the internet. I just have to say.
Okay. Let me go ahead and try to answer this for you. Okay. So in many countries throughout the world, but most especially the United States, as that is where you live, we have very traditional celebrations for the end of the year. One of them being Christmas. Christmas is a celebration that typically lasts almost the entire month of December, and it typically encourages overindulgence throughout the entirety of the month. There is very much it's the end of the year, the devil may care attitude, like I'm just going to go wild, I don't care anymore, I don't want to work anymore, I'm tired, I'm just going to, that whole thing. It's like a whole moment, okay? It's the IDGAF time of the year in terms of like limits and like, I don't know, just a lot of these things. Like people are just kind of like, I don't care anymore. So people spend a lot of money, they eat a lot, they do a lot of stuff throughout December. They're lazier. A lot of times, like, they're just more indulgent. It's like, I'm going to order takeout and I'm not going to go out because it's chilly and I want to just lay down in bed. And it's like, that's kind of like an overall vibe. It doesn't mean that everybody does that during December, but it is a cultural phenomenon that one should be aware of. Okay? So, what comes after December? January. After a while of most people overindulging a little bit or having these moments, January comes in and it brings a sobriety. The new year comes in, people start reflecting on goals, people start reflecting on the state of their lives and where they're trying to head towards for the rest of the year. So, one of the most common ways that this is reflected upon is weight, which people are just like, okay, I kind of want to trim up a little bit as I kind of gained a little bit over December. So while I do understand that these sort of constructs or whatever, they could be, they're a little bit astroturfed, I guess you could say. There is a seasonal aspect to this, particularly in the northern hemisphere, which does bear some kind of physiological underpinning of this, as the autumn is typically the harvest, late autumn is December, technically, and the winter solstice comes through, and blah, blah, blah. So there is sort of a deep physiological reason, but also cultural reasons that are more like, societally created or whatever at the same time. But I think that they connect for specific reasons. But the whole point is, after a time of overindulgence, there comes a time to get back to work, to get back to basics, to get back to a health regime that you're on for most of the rest of the year, or a structure to your life that you're on for most of the rest of the year. That is what occurs every single January. So it is not that health nuts just go crazy every single January. People tend to feel more organized, more motivated, or at least they want to be, even though it is tough. It's a tough time of the year, but people usually feel somewhat prepared or ready to go. Now, this time of the year, as we get towards late January, going into February, this is when a lot of people give up on stuff. But that's a whole other topic that we're not going to get into today. But I'm just saying, that is why. But it doesn't last very long. Like I said, it's probably dying out now. There's probably a lot of people. We're 3 weeks into January. There's probably a lot of people no longer going to the gym and stuff like that. So while many people have good intentions, they don't typically stick it through. What I would say personally, my opinion, is it's actually better to launch new changes in the spring for a lot of different reasons, but especially on a health level, you're a little bit more likely to stick to it. January is really good for continuing momentum and continuing the stuff that you've done the rest of the year. So if you are typically in shape, you have your little moment in December, you can very easily get back to it, or much easier get back to it in January. But to start brand new, it is a little tricky. It doesn't mean that people can't do it. It just means it's a little tricky because it is a challenging time of the year for a lot of people. So again, you can always rise to a challenge and you can defeat it, but you can also choose an easier time to start as well. So that's your decision. I'm not here to judge. I'm just sitting here trying to answer her question. I know that was a long answer, but that is the answer. I get it. January is tough. That's why I'm doing daily January this year. It's tough. I get it.
Hey, what a strange way to spend your spare time. Because some of y'all really be letting fat people live in your brains rent-free. And for what? Because from where I stand, it appears to only be to make yourself feel better by hurting others.
Okay. So there's a lot in fat acceptance that assumes the motivations of other people or assumes the intentions of others. You would think they were the best tarot girlies, the best horoscope readers ever. They're the most psychic of all, okay? Because the fat girlies and boilies in the photosphere, they know what everybody's thinking. They know everybody's intentions all the time. It's truly incredible. They're really quite gifted. They really are. And, you know, I should try to get a reading from one of them. Honestly, we should try it out, you know, because it would be incredible. Honestly, the revelations they could probably give me with how gifted they are. But no. You don't necessarily know why people are doing things. You can always ask. I will say that that's not my intention. I would assume that that isn't most people's intention. I really, really would. I would be hard pressed. I think that there probably are some people out there who do want to hurt others, but it's not actually that common in terms of numbers. Like, I don't believe that you're making this video to hurt everybody. I don't. I think you're making this video because you want to get everybody off your back, or you want to get the perception that everybody's on your back. You want to get that off of you. But there's this funny thing in life. We're not able to control how other people act. I don't get on here. I don't try to control anybody for how they act, but I do make arguments and I do criticize, which a lot of people don't like. That's totally fine, but I'm still going to do it because, again, I don't do this for approval. I really don't. So a lot of those things, they fall flat with me. I'm never going to tell you what you want to hear just because I don't know. I literally can't even think of it because that just isn't me. So it's just not the way that I function. I literally don't even know why people do it. Honestly, at this point, I've lost it. But again, I'm not going to assume why people do it because I'm not going to do that because it's something I just don't understand. I'm not a people pleaser, so I don't get it. But I'm not going to stop. So, yeah. Okay.
And that's some real bully energy, isn't it? They say a lot of things, right? I mean, my comment sections daily are filled with fatphobic comments about my body size. I mean,
you need to define fatphobic if it has to do with saying the truth about weight, the truth about how damaging it is to be morbidly obese, super morbidly obese, etc. That isn't fatphobia. That is just truth. So if it's somebody, you need to define it. I'll just put it to you that way. You need to give an example. They need to give an example of what they're saying. Because when I hear it, my perception is it's somebody who's criticizing the health effects of being that size. That's just telling you the truth, especially when you are likely making posts that have to do with fatness. You're making arguments about fatness. People have a right to argue back. That's the funny thing about argumentation, which you're absolutely welcome to argue your point, but people are also absolutely welcome to argue back.
Here are just a few.
Okay. This is you right here, isn't it? Surprised he could rap his hands. Oh my god.
Are filled with
okay, so you got haters.
Comments about my body size.
Let me see. I'm trying to see more of them.
Here are just a few.
Why would we want to normalize obesity? Seats are small to fit more people for cheaper. Why would you pay more for larger seats? Because there's always business. Why would you pay more for larger seats? Because there's always business class. So this is fatphobia. That's an argument. That's a question. Something of size. You live an unhealthy lifestyle. That's no one else's fault but your own. That's not fatphobic. That's just speaking truth. So where we get to those chins, though, I'm not a fan of that. Like I said, I don't know if this person does have E followed by the letter D, but they may. If they do, this is just kind of a dig that isn't helpful. Always try to keep it logical. This isn't good. This isn't helpful. Okay? But again, I understand that everybody has haters. If it wasn't your weight, it could be anything else, anything and everything. So again, as a part of not being toxically ritualistic or not having E followed by the letter D, you have to understand that weight is just one piece of the puzzle. It's not the entire puzzle. It's not everything about you. It is one aspect. If they're not going to make fun of you for the weight, then they're going to make fun of you for other stuff. If you're doing online content creation, it happens. It's a part of the risk of doing it. That's just a reality.
You.
Okay. So, and some people, they have a lot of, what's the word? I don't remember. Oh, like for example, one of the biggest things that I get made fun of for is my voice. It's always a go-to. So if I ever say something that somebody doesn't agree with, they immediately attack my voice. It's immediate. That's never going to change. It doesn't have to do with weight. It's not going to change. You see? So people will always find something. But again, you just have to have a bit of grit and choose the battles that you're willing to fight, and et cetera, et cetera. I mean, some of this is just basic social media training or stuff that I'm sure you don't need to hear from me, but you're just being disingenuous. Okay, let's continue.
Personally, I just think it's really weird to care so much about other people's bodies that you spend your free time harassing people on the internet. Like, that, to me, seems unhealthy for you, boo. And through the noise, what I hear most of them saying is that...
Yeah, I don't think it's good to be a hater. I don't. There have been times in my life where I was a hater. It's usually people who are incredibly bitter. I was incredibly bitter. That's when I was a hater. It was a while back, though, honestly. So it's not good. But I typically wouldn't comment. Typically. But sometimes I would. So I don't know. I can kind of understand it, but I don't think it's a good thing. I'll put it to you that way. It's kind of a waste of time most of the time. I think if you're going to comment something critical, it's always better to have some kind of an argument or some kind of a point. Otherwise, you're wasting your energy. You're wasting the other person's energy. It's kind of pointless.
Fat people should not be allowed to exist. And
that's a huge leap. That's very, very huge leap. Even from the comments that you showed, there was really nothing that indicated that whatsoever. That is really extra.
It's just a really weird way of saying that you support eugenics.
No. That is a huge leap. Way beyond leaps. No. No. This is ridiculous. We're starting to get to a laughable level. Starting to get laughable. Okay. No. I can't even, when they try to compare weight loss to eugenics. I just can't. I just can't.
Because if you knew anything about this nuanced topic of body size, then you would know that people are not inherently fat by diet and exercise.
There it is. We are now reporting. We have now entered the toxic ritualistic zone. What the hell is that, girl? No, not true.
Alone. Because if it were true that diet and exercise alone could make us thin and keep us thin, keyword keep us thin, then animals like hippos and elephants wouldn't exist, right?
Oh my gosh. Oh, man. You guys. Okay. Okay. Let me just explain this to you. A hippo is a different species than a human being. Different species of animal, different creatures on the earth. They have a normal weight that is different from each other. I know it's crazy. Even within the same species, certain dogs that are bigger dogs, they can weigh more than dogs who are smaller and still be healthy. There's a little bit of nuance there, okay? We're all human beings. Human beings have a range of size that is healthy. It's a range. There's a smaller end to it and a larger end to it. However, if a human being is as big as a hippo, that is way outside the range of healthy weight. That puts you into an extremely unhealthy situation. And we see this through so many different health consequences, some of which I am almost certain that you are experiencing, but you do not want to admit it for the sake of your movement, which it's a little bit toxic ritualistic, babes. It's a little bit, let's ignore the state of our body. It's a little bit, let's gaslight ourselves into thinking that we're okay, that our behaviors are not affecting us. It's not good. But here we are.
They literally eat plants and spend most of their time exercising. And for millions of years, they are still fat. You know why? Genetics.
Species. It's totally different, girly. It's a very, very different topic. Okay.
Genetics. Why is it that we can accept that fat animals exist, not of their own doing, but because of genetics, but we can't accept that fat people exist because of genetics?
I think a lot of people accept that, honestly. I think if you shout into an open room, do you think that weight is genetic? Most people in the United States would agree with you. But my question to you is this: do your genes change based on how much weight you have on you? Because to my knowledge, they don't. Maybe epigenetics, something like that. But it's an interesting question, I guess. It's one that I don't think that you've really done that much research on, or that you're actually talking about in good faith, because you're probably just saying this in order to shut down discussion. But I used to be 383 pounds. At this point, I'm now around 264. Did my genetics change? I don't see my weight skyrocketing up. You know, I saw a lot of correlations between the amount that I'm eating and the amount that I weigh. Am I some kind of anomaly? Are millions of other people also an anomaly? You need to explain this more, please. Because I guarantee that there is eating behavior going on. That would explain it.
Because that just tells me that you treat animals better than you treat human beings. And that's just sad as fuck. I used to talk about fat phobia.
That's really extra. The leaps of logic are just so bizarre. They're so incredibly bizarre.
And size accessibility and fat acceptance on this.
My friend has a dog who's overweight, and he is trying to get my dog's weight, or not my dog, his dog's weight under control. So are you saying that he's treating animals as cruelly as he treats people? Or is he treating animals as well as he treats people?
Platform a lot, but it was utterly exhausting trying to explain that fat people should be able to exist without constant harassment and hatred being thrown at them. It is fucking exhausting to deal with people's unwarranted comments about my body when my body doesn't affect.
You do not have to be on social media. So for one, you really don't have to do this. I'm going to go ahead and just let you know, if there's something that you were thinking that you absolutely have to do this work, you don't. And honestly, you may have quit. Maybe I will check to see if you did quit. If it's something that you don't like, that you're not cut out to do, that's okay. But when you talk about this type of rhetoric, you're going to have pushback. I guarantee if you were to make videos about something else that didn't have to do with weight, there would be a lot less comments about your weight. You may even have people who like your content that if a comment did come up, they would say something to fight them about it, even defend you. So you're never going to have everybody love you. That doesn't exist. That's an impossible standard. But you can have most people like your stuff that watch it. But that often has to do with how you're interacting with an audience, your rhetoric, the style, all these different things, which a lot of you guys in Fat Acceptance, you guys kind of rage farm. You say things that are a bit ridiculous or inflammatory or extremely like black and white, not nuanced, right? You say things in a way that pisses people off in order to get more engagement, which that is something you can do, but you have to be able to take the hate that you bring your way. As a fellow creator, I don't respect it if you're not willing to accept some criticism for a claim that because hippos exist, fat people are fat because of genetics. I think you should expect pushback for something like that. It's not logical. It doesn't make sense. And it's important for you to know that it doesn't make sense.
Them at all. On top of the other intersections of marginalization that I defend on the daily, like,
wouldn't it be so great to not have to worry about being fat then? Because you really don't. Being fat is a mutable trait. It's something you don't have to deal with. And not to mention the effects it has on your mental health, the effects it has on your ability to work, the effects it has on your ability to live your life, the loss of quality of life for being so big, the depression, the mental health issues that come with it, the changes to sleep cycles, the changes to so many different aspects of your life that you're not probably even cognizant of because you're used to it. But wouldn't it be so much better to not have any of those things so you can fight any other battles that you have to face? Because you don't have to be fat. It's not real. That's not a real thing. So why are you signing up to have a harder life for no benefit at all? I think it's really important to question what you're getting out of being so big. It's a really, really, really important question.
race and gender identity. To some, the concept of minding one's own business is just wild. Unless I am sitting on your face, you don't get to have an opinion about the size.
So does that mean that somebody has an ability to have an opinion on somebody who's on a plane with them, who their size is encroaching on their space? So that's at least one issue that you have to allow people to speak on. What about other ways in which it affects people? What if we talk about things like healthcare cost? I mean, you don't want to get into some of these discussions because you might not like the answers to some of them. But unfortunately for everybody, there is a societal cost to obesity. It does exist, and it does bother other people. What about the fact that being this big, it affects your relationships with people? It affects your ability to connect with others. It affects your ability to live your life. If you have children or a partner, it can make it harder for them to relate to you. It can be a literal wall in between you. It can make it more difficult to play with your kids or to enjoy activities and stuff with your partner in a way that is completely unnecessary. What about all the ways in which you're not able to be there for people in your life? But those people who supposedly you love and care about, it doesn't matter if your weight affects them, apparently. Because it does. It absolutely does. It affects people who love you. It makes people scared for you. It makes people sometimes miss you, especially as quality of life decreases with size continuing to climb up in most cases. Again, I guess those genetics, they really change when you can go up in size. It's pretty wild how the genetics, they really shift. It's totally crazy to me. But again, those genetics, they only can shift in one direction. I wonder why. I guess those genetics were fans of Harry Styles back in the day. But all I can tell you is that your weight does affect other people. So if you don't care, if you say, I'm selfish, I don't give a fuck if my weight affects others, okay, fine, but own it. You don't get to gaslight people and say it doesn't affect anyone else. It does. It absolutely does. And the people that it affects the most are people who love you, people who deal with you on a daily basis. It's not a good thing. It just isn't. So no, you are affecting other people, whether you like it or not. You can sit there and try to claim it, but I'm not going to believe it. I'm just not. Sorry.
Of my body. It is wild to me that they claim to only care about my health and that's why they're saying something when they've never seen my blood work. You cannot tell by looking at
blood work is not the be all end all of your health. Your quality of life, how you feel, your ability to, get up off the floor and stuff like that. That's all health related. And again, being fat is not a disability because it's a choice. It's very different. So I don't even want to hear those comparisons. I really, really don't. If somebody can genuinely not help something, which by the way, most people who are disabled, they do try their best to do everything they can. And they would kill for their issue to be able to be gone through something like diet and exercise. So it's disgusting to use those types of comparisons when being fat is a choice. Absolutely. Especially being extremely fat. It is a choice. But your health is not a blood test. Your blood test is usually one of the last things that starts to go down. It starts to go down in quality because things don't always show up with blood immediately. It's like a nutrient deficiency. It has to be very, very bad for it to show up on a blood test. And a blood test is not going to save your heart from the excess effort to pump the blood all over and all that stuff. It just isn't. We have to live in reality. Not to mention the fact that with enough time, your blood tests will probably go down a lot faster than they would have if you weren't overweight.
Someone if they are in a good state of health, physically or mentally.
That's not true. It's just not true. You can look super pale. You can look like you can't breathe. You can have, dark circles of death under your eyes. You could be like, that's all signs that somebody's not healthy. And it's something that you can look at and you can see it and you feel it, you know it. So that's not true. I think you could say you can't tell in all circumstances. Okay, that's fine. But there are plenty of examples where you can tell. Plenty. One of the biggest ones being, like 400 pounds. People can tell that you're not healthy.
But I can tell you what does not contribute to positive mental health outcomes: guilt and shame. Happy people die by suicide all the time.
Do you think that continuing to overeat when you know deep down that it is affecting your health, do you think that that is any kind of self-harm? Do you think that in many cases of people of a certain size, having an E followed by the letter D, do you think that that is something beneficial for a person to have? Do you think it's a good thing? It's something that should be defended, something that somebody should strive to keep? Because I would say probably not. Probably not. It probably is harmful. It's probably something that should be commented on. Should it be done gracefully? Yeah. Should it be done in a way where there's an actual effect? Yeah. Should it be done in a way where it's actually heard? Yes, it should. But the criticism is going to have to come up at some point, because unless the people don't care about you at all, they're going to worry about it. And they should be worried, because it is dangerous. It's very dangerous to be that big.
Because you cannot tell by looking at someone if they are in a good state of mental health. Thin, healthy appearing people die all the time. Ironically, many of them...
This is deflection. We're not discussing that right now. You're talking about being fat. And do remember that people can be fat and thin within one lifetime. They always talk about it like it's a totally different species to be a thin person. It isn't. It's not. However, of course, when you're super morbidly obese, your health is in a very specific type of state, and you don't have typical metabolic markers or things of a thin person. That is true, but we're all the same species, and you can become a thin person. And then those markers and everything in metabolic syndrome, in the vast majority of cases, resolve. They do. So just keep that in mind.
Die doing the very physical activity that they're often praised for, like running marathons, doing high-intensity workouts, or playing a sport that they've spent their entire...
And how many people die of overeating? How many people die of being super morbidly obese? Do you think it's any more or any less? Do you think one of those things is more risky than the other? I wonder.
Their lives playing. Fat people have always existed. We aren't going anywhere. And if you don't care about accessibility in all its forms, then you can't claim to care about human rights. And in my opinion, if you don't care about human rights, then that just makes you a self-serving, egotistical asshole. Do better.
Do you think that that could be a form of projection? Because trying to defend being a super, super huge size, to me, it takes a lot of egotistical thinking, a lot of ignoring anybody else in your life, a lot of ignoring even yourself and what you're currently going through. Do you think encouraging other people to be unhealthy or to be as unhealthy as you would be asshole-ish, because I would think so, especially if you're lying about your health, which many of those in fat acceptance do lie about the state of their health. I would consider that to be extremely asshole-ish, actually. Very deceptive. Not a good thing. So, as far as the human rights piece, I think it's a different discussion. I think when we're talking about toxic ritualistic behaviors or physical reality, like being 400 pounds as a human being not being good for you, it's kind of a different discussion. It's just different. Because it doesn't matter what laws are in place, it's not going to make it any easier on your heart to deal with hundreds of pounds of excess fat. It just isn't. So it's another deflection. Okay? This is all a deflection. To me, this is a video in which you're lashing out to likely protect a coping mechanism that is not serving you. It's really quite that simple. The excuses are not welcome here. But thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you tomorrow. Have a good rest of your day, night, etc. See you soon.